Welcome, everybody, back to another episode of the Nimrod Pod. Gentlemen, we have quite the slate coming up for you today.
Here's a story about George Pickering II, where a brain-dead man who is now in recovery after his father threatened to shoot the medics that were trying to turn off his life support machine. The father, George Pickering II, refused to accept that his 27-year-old son would not recover from the stroke, so he believed that he would recover, and he held off police and hospital staff with a gun for 3 hours. And finally, the father, Mr. Pickering, was able to get his son to squeeze his hand on command numerous times during the standoff. So obviously, the boy recovered. The Canadians tried to kill him. And you know why they tried to kill him? Because they wanted to harvest his organs. These people that are talking about broadening the definition of death, these people who are forcing Americans to strip their organ donor status off of their driver's license because they can't trust the medical establishment anymore. The medical establishment will pull the plug on somebody who has a chance just to take their organs. So good on Mr. Pickering here, and un unreal by the entire medical establishment, Canada, and this hospital and the police. Disgusting. Disgusting. We need to give people a shot. And it seems like this whole system it's all about taking people's shot away. It's all about making sure they're doing treatments their whole lives, taking prescriptions. We need change, and RFK can lead it.
RFK is the greatest contributor to the Trump administration. If it wasn't for the progress that RFK Jr. is making in our healthcare system, I don't think I would have anyone I could rely on in the administration. It would be hard to trust in Trump's process moving forward. RFK has done so much to eliminate the poison in our food supply, to halt the production and funding of harmful vaccines that are sterilizing our youth and causing chronic disease in the masses. One thing that I am a little concerned about is the recent FDA approval of lab created dairy and beef, specifically Bill Gates' new company called Savor, where he lab cultivates butter and beef and fails to include transparent labeling. An even more shocking example is Jeff Bezos's lab cultivated salmon that actually says on the package, wild salmon. And they sell this in grocery stores. It's completely legal and FDA approved. This was approved this past week under the supervision of RFK Jr. Last I checked, RFK Jr. isn't going on vacation anymore. He learned his lesson last time when the two HHS appointees gave blanket approval to vaccine manufacturers to run with mRNA developments. Why did RFK approve lab cultivated products with misleading labeling? I love how Alex Jones is leaning into the Maha movement and spotlighting everything great he's doing and blaming Pam Bondi and the DOJ and Susie Wiles for blocking his attempts to truly make America healthy again. But I question why Alex hasn't called RFK out directly on lab cultivated meat and dairy. He's been shouting this from the rooftops all week. It's been one of the hottest topics on InfoWars, but he hasn't pointed the finger at RFK. Why is this? What is the insider info that we don't have that Alex Jones does have? What do you guys think's going on here? How is this allowed to happen on RFK's watch?
One of two things. One of two things. One, he's lying to everybody. He's a part of the deep state and he's doing these things himself. Two, he's being pressured one alleyway or another. And I think it's two. Uh, Reasoning number one is that as soon as he got into office, all the Maha stuff went out the window, and he said we need to focus on anti-Semitism. So maybe he's compromised. Who knows? But we need to hear things about this before drawing any conclusions, really. Those are just theories. I want to hear what he has to say. I want to hear what Alex Jones has to say because this can't keep happening, one, and I don't think RFK is the one doing it, two, just because how are we getting tricked so much if that is the case? How are we falling for everything? How are they ruining everything? That would just be like the most unlucky election ever.
I guess we'll find out. It's obviously Alex Jones broke this first, but it is just now breaking into the mainstream. Cito Scout posted it yesterday. I would expect RFK to have this on his radar any moment now. I do find it alarming how the public finds things out before he does. I mean, this was literally on the local news. They did an entire segment on it in Northern California, San Francisco area. There should be some sort of automated system that flags major stories like this. This is concerning, RFK Jr. You employ thousands and thousands and thousands of bureaucrats that are supposed to be monitoring the American healthcare system for you. And this hasn't made it to your desk yet? This seems like somewhat of a significant undertaking not to be making news. It's not like Bezos and Gates are launching these projects without the oversight of the FDA. They literally received approval from the FDA. There's two things that could be happening here. Either this never made it to Kennedy's desk and one of the bureaucrats approved it on his behalf without his knowledge, or this did hit his desk and there's more corruption and bullshit that they're hiding from us. I tend to think that RFK himself isn't corrupt. My only hesitation is his loyalty to Israel. I mean, he's super close with Rabbi Shmuley, and he's now enacting anti boycott laws into the HHS. Anti-Semitism and our foreign policy has absolutely nothing to do with the HHS. Like, this is one of the few work streams in the federal government where your sole focus is on what's going on here domestically and the American people. If it wasn't for the Israel problem, I wouldn't have any concerns. In fact, the fact that the DOJ, led by Pam Bondi and Susie Wiles, is so against what Kennedy's doing gives me some sort of reassurance that what Kennedy's doing is good and that he truly is someone we can trust. I mean, he's exposing everything. He is mainstreaming everything that we've been shouting from the rooftops about for years. I'm still holding out hope for Kennedy. Anytime something like this slips through the cracks, he jumps on top of it. So I'll give him a couple weeks. But if we don't one, hear anything from him immediately, and two, see no sort of regulatory action against this, then I'll be concerned.
It'd be very unlike him to not do anything about this. I think we have to give it time. What he preaches 24/7 is what we consume and what's safe to consume and what's not safe to consume. And he's done multiple actions so far to make sure that we are taking care of the harmful stuff we're putting in our body. So I do agree with you. Something's going on. Personally, I think it'd have to be out of his hands.
Let's talk about another problem. Obviously, lactose intolerance impacts countless Americans, including 2/3 of the Nimrod podcast. We've all evolved our approach to nourishment over the past couple of years, especially once Bobby Kennedy burst onto the scene, and we're constantly adjusting it to find ways to optimize our health. Chet, can you tell us about your lifelong struggle with lactose intolerance and gut health, and what changes you've made recently? And finally, what are the results that you've seen?
Sure, Lou. So I actually wasn't lactose intolerant my entire life. It happened when I was around 12 or 13. And because, I was a big cereal child, didn't know any better back then. But yeah, so I have my theories about whether it was a vaccine or a dose of antibiotics or something along those lines. But so ever since then, it took me a while to identify what the culprit was. It was after I had gone through a severe phase of facial acne and severe stomach pain every day. So Finally cut out the dairy because that was the only option at that point. Um, recently consulted with our friend Lou here, the Nimrod Pod nutritionist, and talked through what I have to do about dairy and how to approach it nowadays, just because there's so much bad stuff out there. One thing I found that was really helpful was the raw kefir with it's basically a good starting point, 99% lactose free. Plus, it has probiotic cultures, which can stimulate good digestion. And then after that, the grass-fed, vat pasteurized or low temp pasteurized A2 milk. I've been taking small doses of that every day or twice a day and working it up because it is an intolerance. If you build a tolerance, if you build your gut enzymes back up, then it works. Happy to report that after eating ice cream on Sunday, I was fine. So it's still a long way to go with the gut, working it out. But um, thanks to Lou and the people that do all this research on alternative medicine and helping people that are hopeless, I'm able to at least have hope.
That's awesome to hear. This is a major victory for you, and I hope it can be a case study for others. There's a common misconception that you have a gut problem, you have a lactose intolerance, when in reality, your gut cells completely replace themselves every 4 days. So you don't have permanent gut issues. You just keep constantly poisoning yourself, or you were injured by a vaccine or some other medication that you were forced to take when you were younger. One of the key changes you can make in your diet is eliminating pasteurized dairies. When you pasteurize dairy, you're heating it up to a very hot temperature and it kills all the live cultures and enzymes and healthy bacteria in the dairy. When you do this, you're left with milk that has been stripped of all of its nutrients. And that itself is what could lead to lactose intolerance and gut issues. All these different enzymes and bacteria are supposed to be great for your gut. Like there's a reason people eat kefir and yogurt. It's cultured, it's full of these enzymes, it's even added back in, and it's supposed to fortify your gut. This is something that's supposed to be naturally occurring in every single human's diet. When we take this out of our diet, not only does it make us sensitive to dairy that is pasteurized, it makes us sensitive to all food, and it totally screws up your diet. Your gut microbiome is almost as important as your heart. It is the central nervous system of your immunity. And if you have gut issues, you're going to have issues all over. So the number one thing you can do is remove pasteurized dairy. It gets a little tricky because raw milk is actually banned from being sold in retail in all but one of the 50 states in America, that being California. However, there are workarounds. You can go to any farm and buy directly from the producer and get raw milk, no problem, totally legal. Oftentimes, they set up really nice dairy shops that feel just like a grocery store, but less corporate. And you're able to go in there and get the milk directly from the source. For some people, that's not practical. Some people don't live in rural areas and they're hours away from dairy farms. So what you can do is you can go to many retail grocers, predominantly now in natural grocery stores, and you can get low temp or vat pasteurized dairy. This is when dairy manufacturers pasteurize the milk at the lowest possible temperature they're allowed to while still being allowed to be sold at retail. The best brand nationally is Kelowna Supernaturals. They've done a great job of scaling up this concept, and they are the most widely available. A great hack for you guys is to go to your local Whole Foods or Sprouts and look for their local dairy options. Here in Texas, we have a wonderful dairy farm called Mill King, and they distribute locally only to natural grocers in Texas and the surrounding states. And you're actually able to get the same exact quality minus the certifications. These big national brands pay money to get certified, to say that they're organic, to say that they're grass-fed, to say that they're A2. The problem is this is narrowing their margins. This is eating away at their profit. Their local farms, the people in the community see how they're treating the cattle. They see how they're feeding the cattle. They see how they're cultivating the dairy. So they trust them. And they're able to say on their website, hey, we are 100% grass-fed and grass-finished. We are low-temp pasteurized. Here is the temperature that we heat our milk up to. And we are completely compliant with USDA organic standards. But we don't pay for all the bullshit. So I'm going to give you the same quality of milk that you get from Clone and Supernaturals and some of these major brands like Alexandre, and I'm going to give it to you for half the price. And it's local. So you're even closer to the source. A major hack is finding local dairy, whether it is raw milk from local farms or low temp or vat pasteurized dairy from your local natural grocer. Changing the way you approach your diet will change your life. Start off by removing pasteurized dairy, and don't be afraid of whole fat dairy either. Back in the day when the tobacco industries bought up all the major food and beverage companies, they took the same technology that they used to make cigarettes addictive, and they used it to make food and beverages addictive. And they colluded with Big Pharma to make a key decision. What are we going to blame heart disease on? Cholesterol or sugar? They chose cholesterol because they have an entire medical complex built around statins and mitigating cholesterol levels. They don't have that for sugar. And the food companies want to add more sugar to their food so that it becomes addicting and people want more and it makes them sicker. So they falsely blamed heart disease on cholesterol, demonized whole fat dairy, demonized red meat, and pushed people towards linoleic acid full seed oils and artificial sweeteners and complex carbohydrates that have slowly deteriorated the human condition across America. We were once the healthiest nation in the world, and we are now in the low 70s. We're practically as unhealthy as a third world country. You could even say that third world countries are doing better than us because they're grazing off the land and eating food that God put on the earth for them. We have a serious systemic issue. And despite RFK's loyalty to Israel, I can't help but trust him. I don't think we have a choice because he's doing more than anyone ever has. If it wasn't for him, we wouldn't even know about all this shit that he's exposing. You can't say the things he's saying without risking your life. The establishment hates RFK Jr. Getting Bobby Kennedy's endorsement sealed the election for Donald Trump. We need to trust RFK Jr. We need to push back against Pam Bondi and Susie Wiles and all the folks in the administration that are opposing the great things he's doing. We need to push this mission beyond RFK so that when Trump gets out of office, this movement doesn't die. This should be the new standard. This should be the new normal. We're case studies of what happens when you take control of your health, and it's all thanks to RFK Jr. Where are you going to take us, Chet?
I'm taking us down to DC. Want to hear your guys' thoughts on DC federalizing it. I don't really know the details of what that would entail.
DC is an absolute hellhole. For most of our lives, St. Louis, Missouri has been the deadliest city in the country. But now we see Washington, D.C., our nation's capital, the home of the President of the United States, is the deadliest city in the country. How does this happen? I'll tell you why. It's because the city of Washington, D.C. is not run by the federal government. It's run by locally elected officials. The mayor of Washington, D.C. is, drumroll please, a Soros plant. George Soros has owned the ground game in local government for decades. He's finally starting to lose his grasp on urban America. And step one to winning this battle against Soros is taking back D.C. The President of the United States has the power to federalize Washington, D.C. This would allow President Trump to use the full power of the United States government to oversee the day-to-day operations of Washington, D.C., clean up the streets, and lend the National Guard to finally make D.C. great again. We've talked about this many times before. A country is only as great as its greatest cities. Washington, D.C. is our capital. It should be the pinnacle of American excellence. This will go a long way when foreign leaders come in town. Where do foreign leaders go when they come to visit the United States? 99% of the time, it should be to Washington, D.C. to meet with our federal government. This is long overdue. Sick and tired of watching innocent people like Big Balls. Shout out Big Balls. He has the biggest balls in the Trump administration, and he's still kicking even after Elon left. And I'm glad that Trump is finally doing this, but it's a shame it took one of our best and brightest getting seriously injured to make this happen. I hope Trump acts swiftly and does a complete 180 on the city within the month, and I'll be happy.
And once we see Trump go in there, I think it's obvious that anything we do to federalize this or bump up the police is going to work. It's going to be hilarious to see all the leftists and the liberals deny that it's working. They might even go as far as to create false flags, like Chicago under Lori Lightfoot. Some people theorized that she was actually inviting crime to the city so that they had something to do. So I want it to work. I want to rub it in people's faces. But first, we need Trump to actually do it. I'm not denying that he's done a lot. I am not here to question any of the past decisions. I think this would be a great idea for leaving a mark as a Trump presidency.
In the vein of Trump, I want to hit on some of the economic developments coming from Scott Bassett and Howard Lutnick. Political analysts are wrong when they say Trump is playing 10D chess when it comes to Epstein and all these different intelligence issues and disclosure. He's not. He simply is not. He's being fed inaccurate intelligence, and he's making terrible decisions that are ruining his reputation with the American people. However, when it comes to the economy and foreign diplomacy, Trump 100% is playing 10D chess, and he is the best and brightest on his team enacting this wonderful plan. If you weren't aware, Trump put tariffs on all gold bars coming from Switzerland. Why is this interesting? All the massive banks have huge short positions on gold. When Trump enacts this tariff, it inevitably is going to make the price of gold go up. This isn't good for the banks. A short position means they're betting on the price of gold to go down. You add a tariff and the price is going to go up. Supply down, demand up. The banks frantically started unwinding their short positions and exposed the fallacy of the banking system to the entire world. The people finally got to see front row how they've been rigging this system for so long. There is so little supply of gold, and these banks are so disgustingly over leveraged. Now that Trump has exposed this, he is essentially saying, I saved your ass and I have my thumb on you. And we can now move America out of an economy that is oversaturated in stocks and bonds. We can utilize leveraged debt in the short term to keep the economy afloat and slowly but stably push money back to the consumer's hands to encourage diversification and empower Americans to reallocate their funds to tangible assets like gold and silver and decentralized cryptocurrencies. Our economy is massively over-concentrated in stocks and bonds, essentially artificial money. By pushing America away from this centralized financial system, it will finally break apart the WEF's plan for a central bank digital currency, and it will tie Americans' money to tangible things that are not controlled by the banks. This is one of the most important things Trump has done yet, and nobody's talking about it. I want to give a special shout out to Kirk Elliott from KEPM, the largest gold distributor in the world for identifying this issue. I believe the banks are well aware of what's going on, and they're doing everything they can to shield this from the public. My question is for the millions and millions of Americans that are employed by these banks and work for the companies that these banks own, you're aware of what's going on too. Why aren't you talking about it? Why aren't we spreading this to the masses? Why aren't we putting pressure on the banks to comply? Trump's not giving them an option, but this is something that we should be celebrating. The more Trump can do in the macroeconomic environment globally, the less impact Jerome Powell is going to have. And this brings us one step closer to stripping the Federal Reserve from their immunity. And hopefully, a man can dream the eventual abolition of the Federal Reserve. Were you guys aware of what was going on with Switzerland, these gold tariffs? And regardless, what are your thoughts on this decision by the Trump administration to totally transform the macroeconomic environment?
A lot of things went wrong when we got off the gold standard. I think recentering the economy around physical currency could be a good thing. I don't know if it's possible.
I will add, Trump has been hinting at something. He's been saying things are going to get bad before they get better in a very cryptic way. What he's talking about is our stock market's going to take a hit. Most wealth management companies put all of your retirement money in stocks and bonds. For all of you that are saving money, which is a disgusting percentage of Americans, you need to diversify. And Trump has quietly put in legislation that will allow you to put your retirement money, your 401k, your Roth, and your IRA towards tangible assets, towards decentralized cryptocurrencies, and actually pegging your money, your hard-earned cash, against something that you can literally touch, something that you can have a receipt for. And when you go to the bank, you can actually withdraw that.
I respect what he's doing. I mean, we've been getting pushed around by these foreign countries for a long, long time. And yeah, he has been saying things are going to get worse before they get better. He's been saying that since he got in office. So we don't really know how this is going to affect the market, but I do think it's going to be huge. I mean, these guys have, I don't know if the numbers are legit or not, but supposedly we've made a lot of money on the tariff so far, and climbing to subtract from that huge deficit that we have.
The banks have been artificially suppressing gold prices for a long time now by shorting them into rallies. And now this 39% tariff is going to make prices skyrocket. Like, this is a very simple economic theory that none of the banks considered. If we we have such a suppressed supply, we have such a low supply of gold, we put a tariff on it. This is going to be a true precious commodity. And it would be wise of the United States to tie the USD to something tangible or decentralized cryptocurrency. And again, this is the stuff that Trump is working on in the shadows that nobody's talking about.
Goddamn right. Hey, I got a quick one here. Sam Hyde and Nick Fuentes had an episode of discussion the other night, and it must have been Saturday. They talked through a couple of things. Sam really just asked Nick a couple of questions, and Nick would answer them to his fullest knowledge. And it was impressive how much he knew. Most of the things he said we already know, at least as people who are plugged in. It was a unserious show. It was all more about comedy on Sam's end. They had a couple of idiots in there, and Sam was acting kind of like a dumbass, which is a common pitfall with him. What could have been a great discussion, what could have been a capture of more audience for Nick, ended up being something that people laughed off. It's kind of like people are scared to dive into that realm of politics, and rightfully so. There's a lot of force of censorship and debanking and all that on the heels of platforming somebody like Nick Fuentes. But if we want to make a difference, which I know they all do, and we all do, we got to start pushing the boundaries of what's acceptable, especially in normal conversations. You can't say that if this guy says these things, you can't put it on the internet or you're getting demonetized. We got to break that system down. So disappointed, but I think they could come back. Sam's never been the best. Nick's really on the up and up. I want to see that keep going.
Yeah, the Sam Hyde interview was disappointing. It was just super unstructured and unfocused. And I don't really think they accomplished anything. It was just a lot of hype for nothing. And I think there's a lot more notable news surrounding Nick Fuentes today. For example, on the heels of these massive feuds that he's having with Tucker Carlson and Candace Owens, he recently received support from folks that you don't think would support him. Glenn Greenwald, Ian Carroll have called out Fuentes' critics, saying that he is undeniable. He is arguably the most influential voice for young conservatives. And to shut him out because you disagree with what he thinks is kind of the opposite of what conservative populism is. It's the opposite of the America First movement. There's a reason Nick chose America First as his slogan, because he may be the first American political figure to truly be America First, almost to his a fault. He is his biggest enemy. And we keep seeing visceral reactions from those who oppose him. Now we're seeing attacks from Elon Musk. Elon Musk, several times over the past couple of days, has hinted at the fact that Nick Fuentes could be a Fed over and over again, and giving a platform for Fuentes to be criticized. There could be some merit to this. He does have some questionable ties to J6 and encouraging folks to go inside the Capitol building. I believe he's doing a tell-all on this tonight to clear the air, so maybe this won't make sense when it comes out. But maybe it is all bullshit. And why are people getting so worked up about Nick Fuentes? I worry that they try to cancel him, they try to put him in jail, they've already tried to kill him. Like, what are they going to do to Nick Fuentes next? I mean, he is more popular than ever. In the words of Obi-Wan Kenobi, you strike me down, I will become more powerful than you could possibly imagine. And that is 100% true. They're running out of tricks. And before you know it, things are going to get extreme. And I would not be surprised if there were some violent attacks against Nick Fuentes. I'm not talking about just some crazy lone gunman that shows up at his house. I'm talking about foreign assassins. I'm talking about intelligence agencies. I'm very interested to see how this all plays out, because there are some credible arguments to say that we shouldn't trust Nick. But judging by the reactions I'm seeing from these people, there's something that he's saying that people really don't like. And maybe there's a reason for that.
Oh, that's obviously, we've come so goddamn far in the past 2 years, the past year. We've come so far. I mean, imagine that show getting on the air 4 years ago. They would explode. There would be a nuclear bomb go off in every major city. Now we're so far, we pushed the Overton window so far. The left actually helped us out by starting to call everybody Nazis. They called Trump a Nazi, where Trump is really a shill for Israel at this point, based on the evidence. Now we have Nick and Myron Gaines and all these other regular kind of guys, Bradley Martin, Theo Vaughn, that are all crushing this issue. So make your theories. Make your theories. Are they the controlled opposition? Are they trying to hinder it? Are they trying to make it seem like it's a bad thing? But throw your theories out there. But we're getting somewhere with, like, hey, the ideas are getting spread again. The censored ideas are back on the marketplace. It's good news for me. Let's see more out of Nick. I'm really liking watching that guy lately. He's a great speaker. He's got great points. and I want to see my heart get broken if he's revealed to be a Fed. So I'm all in so far.
I mean, there's two ways this shakes out. Either he is a Fed, he's an informant, and he has been misleading us this whole time, or literally everyone else that we know and love is compromised. And he's all we got besides Alex Jones. Those are two frightening situations. And we need answers. And we don't get answers by dismissing him and refusing to have conversations with him. Obviously, the discussion between him and Candace just mutually didn't go well. And they both handled it poorly. Is this Nick's fault? I don't know. He seems to have drama with everybody. He seems to have beef with everyone. I don't think it would be hard to say that it's everyone else's fault, not his. I think we need to get him and Tucker in a room. I think Elon needs to shut his fucking mouth, and we need to clear the air. We need to clear the air fast. Those midterms are coming up real soon. And if we keep this massive divide on the right, it's going to be really hard for us to unify in a major election, and we could lose serious power in Congress.
We already have a massive divide, you know, ever since Trump went down the Epstein road, probably before that. The Epstein road, he took the wrong path, but it was one of the paths to say, who's still talking about this? If you're still talking about this, you're an idiot. You know, we got to forget about this. And we all remember, you know, they might even try to memory hole that. What we had after that was a group of influencers, Tim Dillon, uh, Tucker, Nick, everybody saying that was wrong. You know, that was a misstep. And we all had consensus there. What's coming as of late is I think it's much less of a division than the first one, because we have the groups of people who they trust, who they don't. I don't think we're gonna get any lifelong grudges. Most of the people just want to know the truth. You know, most of the people are truth seeking. Most of the people are truth seeking, and whoever comes out with it, then that's gonna be the person we follow. Uh, the diehard, the Groypers, the Frogs, they might be diehard Nick Fuentes all the way, even if he turns out to be gay and a Fed and whatever. But most of the reasonable majority of the population is going to see evidence and they're going to find out the truth. Same thing with Trump. Like, we're losing people on the Trump side because they're so diehard, cat turd, and all the boomers. We're losing them. Who gives a fuck? You know, we're not going to stand for things that they do just to keep the peace. That's what cowards do. I don't know if this is the end of the world for us, honestly. We could we could see some strife, we could see some fire. Part of me thinks it's all for clicks. So let's just keep pushing. Don't worry too much, Nimrods out there. It's gonna be okay.
Yeah, and dive in a little bit deeper on that Candace Owens drama. So last night, which happened to be Tuesday, she dropped a bombshell thread on X, laying out just a huge list of shady moves by Nick Fuentes that does make you wonder if something's going on. And one of those happened to be, his bank accounts getting frozen. Candace was just spinning stories why, but she doesn't have any receipts, which is concerning with all of this. So we haven't seen any like real hard proof to believe any of this. But one of the claims that I did do a little bit more research on was a French programmer sent Nick Fuentes $250,000 in Bitcoin right before he committed suicide. This donor's name is Laurent Bachelier. Allegedly, he was into creating online troll armies. So why would a random French dude give Nick Fuentes $250,000? And why hasn't Nick explained it? Like you said, supposedly he's going live tonight to go unpack it all. But 250,000 isn't pocket change. I'm not accusing Nick of anything. If he is a Fed, he's doing a damn good job. because the amount of unhinged truth that he says, I have no reason not to believe that he is America first and he does fight for us. So it will be interesting to let this unfold. But as of right now, I'm just skeptical, and none of this shit seems to be adding up.
I will add that Nick is a target of the deep state, and we have evidence of this. Project Veritas this week released Bill Barr's target list. Bill Barr, being the former Attorney General of the United States, had a target list of individuals that were to be subpoenaed over January 6th and the 2020 election. A few of the notable names on that list are Nick Fuentes and Alex Jones. And we see what has happened to both of them since 2020. Clearly, the deep state doesn't like Nick. The question is, who does? And I'm having trouble identifying anyone that allies with him aside from the Alex Jones types.
I know who does. The millions of freaks that stand at his feet and attack everybody that says anything bad. And you know these people are all just like, let's say, geeks for sake of argument. They're definitely geeks. They're terrible people. They enjoy fronting cruelty on X. They're probably pleasant people in real life, but they act like they're so evil and they think it's funny. So he's got an army. Whatever Joey said about this guy who was into building online troll armies, I think he did a pretty good job with the Groypers. So that's who's behind him. This is a people-backed movement. Every time he does a stream, he reads off donations for an hour, and they're giving him like $200. They're giving him $100 each. That's how he's running this stuff. It's a people's movement, and so far he's the only one, or not the only one, but he's one of the only ones that's been consistent.
This is, correct me if I'm wrong, but this sounds like the definition of a cult. I never really thought about it this way. I don't identify as a Groyper, but I really admire Nick's talent and his analysis, and I've learned a ton from him. It's really challenged the way that I look at the political landscape. However, as you said, Chet, all of his followers are basement dwellers. They are absolute freaks. They are not people I would want my daughter to marry. They're not someone I'd want to hang out with. In fact, I would question if we really do have anything in common. I think it would be wise of Nick not to shun these people, but to create a new identity for his followers. Can we move from Groypers to cool, God-fearing people, normal people that are awake to what's going on in this world and not bought and paid for by Israel, but also occasionally, maybe even twice a year, make sweet love to a woman? Is that so much to ask for? That seems like some pretty reasonable criteria. Maybe I'm crazy, though.
You're crazy, Lou. You're crazy. If you want right-wing political discourse online, you got to deal with online people, the people that spend their most of their time online, because those are the people that are going to be making the most noise, and you know it.